Hello, I'm Penny. This is Penelope's Pitstop, and in this issue, issue 14, we'll be building the copper pipes and part of the cockpit frame.
For those who fought in the Battle of Britain, it was a battle for survival. For the free world, it was a breathless moment in history. For failure would have plunged mankind into a new dark age. Never have so many owed so much to so few.
So hello to everybody watching this. This is issue 14 of Build the Spitfire Mk1a, and this is copper pipes and part of the cockpit frame. So what I've done is I've forgotten to get pieces out of the container, so let's have a look at the contents. So we have 14.1 cockpit framework left side, 14.2 cockpit framework left side, 14.3 connecting strut, 14.4 we have got cockpit panel, and 14.5 is the cockpit panel, and then we have 5 km 1.6 by 3mm screws. So it says, right, okay, so there is a correction of sorts. It says, due to a production problem, the screws in the blister pack are too long. Use the shorter screws which are attached to the back of the blister pack. So let me get these off. So these are the screws that have been sent to us as part of the pack. So these are obviously not 3mm screws. They look about 3mm screws. I'll measure them another time. But these are the screws that we've been given, and they do actually look closer to 2mm. But that's fine, we'll use these ones. So perhaps they'd originally intended us to use 3mm, and then someone pointed out it was actually 2mm that we need. So we will also need the 2 copper pipes supplied with issue 11. That's these here. And let's move on to stage 1. So take the copper pipe 11.5. Note that one end has a large single peg and the other has a fine tiered peg. Thread the pipe through the framework of the engine compartment on the right hand side of the engine as shown. So before I continue, I'd like to remind myself of which one was which. We easily identified them, but as you can see they are a different shape. So 11.5 is this much more curlier one. You see that it is a kink there, and then a sharp kink there, and then it straightens up. And then, as the magazine says, there's a larger peg there and a smaller peg there. So if I compare the large of one to the small of the other, you can see there is a difference. And then the other ends, there's a difference. So this is piece number 11.5, which I'm going to place at the top, and this is piece number 6. You see this is much smoother. So that's piece number 6. So I've reminded myself of which is which, and I'm keeping 5, 6, so the lower number at the top. And so it's actually piece 5 that we require, which is this one. I'm just going to place it there. So we need to refer back to our earlier piece, and this is beautiful but heavy now. So we need to thread this in, and we have the smaller end, this end. So that's going to go in like so, somehow. Wow, is all I can say, and that's going in to a place that I can't see. So let's have a closer look at step 2. fit the lower end of the pipe 11.5 into the socket at the back of the supercharger 8.3 as shown. Glue in place. So not only have we got to find it, test fit it, but once it's there we've got to take it out, glue it and fit it again. So I think I found the hole. So just there, I don't know if you can see it, I've had to take my glasses off. So there is the fitting for the pipe, but obviously we need to do that coming through the engine. So I don't know at this stage how we're going to tackle that. However, I have noticed that now we're aiming for that hole rather than aiming it for the engine, it does seem to be fitting better. So I think it's definitely going to be tweezers, and it's definitely going to be long tweezers. No, it's not going to be tweezers because I can't get the tweezers in. So right, there we go. So that's now in the hole. It's not glued in the hole, but I'm not going to glue it until I know where the other end goes. Then I'll glue both together. So let's have a look at step 3. Fit the fine peg on the upper end of pipe 11.5 into the socket on the side of the engine detail 5.6 as shown. Glue in place. So that's great. So that's going there. So that's actually the easier one to fit. One of the issues I would have with gluing that is we don't know what angle to get it. So if I actually approach this piece first and we get that in correct, and then we get the other end in roughly, then we'll work on the other pipe and we'll come back to this one. So I'm going to refer to my strongest glue because I want this to set quite quickly. So I'm just going to pop some glue into a trough there. Not much. We really are not going to need much at all. So with a cocktail stick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this pipe well out of the way, so we can apply some glue to the hole. Like so. I may actually have applied too much there. Oh no. Oh, my cocktail stick rolled onto my cutting mat. I can't abide having glue on my cutting mat, especially when it's new. So that's in there. 3, 4, 5. Lovely. So when I let go, it does actually stay in. So now we've got something a little bit easier to work with when we come to this end. So I have deliberately left stage 2 out, which is to glue this piece in. I just want to give that a bit of gluing time. So let's have a look at stage 4, 5 and 6. So 4 is turn the assembly around and take the second copper pipe, 11.6. Again, note that one end has a large single peg and the other end has a fine tiered peg. Thread the pipe through the framework of the engine compartment on the left hand side of the engine as shown. Stage 5, fit the lower end of the pipe 11.6 into the socket on the back of the supercharger as shown. Glue in place. And stage 6, fit the fine peg on the upper end of the pipe into the socket on the side of the engine detail as shown. Glue in place. So we are going to do all that work again, however we're going to do it on the other side. There we go. So that one's actually slipped straight into place. What my original intention was to actually fit it on this end first and then fish around trying to find this end. However, it's just gone straight into place. So while I'm here, I'm going to fit this easy end. So a little bit of glue on that side, and then I can manipulate this. Now, I will warn you, this pipe is pretty much an exact fit. If it was any shorter or longer, if it was any shorter, obviously it wouldn't fit. If it was any longer, you'd have to kink the pipe around too much. Right, so now what we need to do is turn it back, and we're going back to stage 2, and we just need to fiddle around, have a practice. There we go. So I can get it in with the tweezers from this end. So I actually need to get that well out of the way, just so that I can get glue into the hole. Okay, so working from here, whoops. So it's not easy, it is possible. It's much like driving a car from the back seat. Oh, there we go, we've got in. There we go, that's in. So if I leave that a few seconds, lovely, that's now fully glued in. So that is absolutely amazing. That is a plastic piece, but it really does look like a copper pipe running through there. I'm absolutely gobsmacked with that. That is beautiful. So each stage is becoming more beautiful than the last. Just as you think it can't get any better, it does. So let's have a look at stage 7, if there is one. So take the cockpit framework 4.1 and the cockpit panel 14.4. Check the fit. The rim of the panel fits into the recess on the inside of the frame as indicated. Use a cocktail stick to apply a little super glue around the rim and fit in place. So looking at this framework, I can see that we are looking at this piece, and the reason I know we're looking at this piece is because we've got 2 screw holes there, which is towards us, and whereas this one, if we had the screw holes there, it would we want this panel there to be on the other side. So there is some minute detail on there, however I cannot see it, so I'm not going to try and show it to the camera because we're just not going to be able to read it. So oh, we've got more detail here. So is this some kind of hatch? Because it's got to be red. So there we go, that's going to go into there, and that is just simply apply a little bit of glue. So using as small a dab of glue as possible, I'm going to use this cocktail stick, and I'm just going to run a little bit of glue into the corners, and the way I'm going to do that is I hit the middle of the seam. Let me show you again on this one. So we come into the middle of the seam, and then we can push it away, and then we can push it back towards the other corner. So middle of seam. So that way, if we've applied a tiny bit more glue than we needed to, it can then be spread out. So I hope you saw that okay. But we will be doing it again in the next stage. So 3, 4, 5. So oops, that's not in. This is another advantage to putting the tiniest dab of glue. If you haven't pushed it into place enough, the whole thing wouldn't have made contact, therefore it wouldn't actually have glued. So that's fine, that's stuck in place. Okay, so step 8. Take the second cockpit panel 14.5 and fit it into the opening of the framework as indicated. When you are happy with the fit, apply a little super glue around the rim and fix in place. So that should be this bit. I was expecting it to be slightly more angled because that's what the magazine suggests. However, that fits into place perfectly. One thing that concerns me though, these obviously come off a big sprue, because I can see a little bit of something there. So I'm just going to, working at an angle like that, I'm going to just sand it there, and the reason I know it's safe to sand there is because this piece will end up inside the framework. So, and I think that that will improve the fit. So do not use knives in the manner that I do. You should always cut away from yourself. I'm doing videos that I'm about to edit after I've created this, so if anything should happen, you won't get the chance to see it on camera, I'm afraid. You'll just see me in the next video with a shorter finger. So let's do a dry fit. Perfect. So that's what it's going to look like when it's glued. Now those two are holes there, whereas that's like a little sticker, and there's a brown. I'm going to just suggest that that's probably going to be a warning sign. Whether the pilots took notice of warnings, I would imagine the amount that they were on standby and scrambling, the only thing on their minds probably was a cup of tea, getting back, you know, getting up in the air, enjoying their rest when it happened. I don't know if they got a lot of rest, but you see these films where they're sitting around having cups of tea in the airfield, and then all of a sudden the sirens go off, and then you'll also see films where they've just come back from a mission and they're just about to get out and have a cup of tea, and then they're off again, not even had time to refuel properly. So if you are busy life, would you actually read the warning signs? So there we go, guys, that is in. Obviously we leave that over time, that will set stronger. So the next stage is stage 9. Take the connecting strut 14.3 and check the fit at the side of the cockpit framework 14.1 from the outside. Use 2 km 1.6 by 3mm screws to fix the parts together. So I've seen this kind of arrangement before. What we're actually going to do is we're going to eventually take these two pieces and we're going to attach them together. Now we could have an overlapping piece which gives us a screw hole, but instead what they're going to do is they're going to give us a piece of framework which bolts over the top, and that holds them in place like that. And where I've seen this done before is a part work called Build the Millennium Falcon, and you actually have pieces of framework that touch each other with a frame over the top, and it is actually a very good way to do it. So we have this framework piece. It has smooth side, and let's call that dotty side. So dotty side, smooth side. So with the images towards us and the dots showing dotty side up, we are going to place that there. We're then going to turn it over. We're going to insert a screw there and there. Now looking at this, very much like the Route Master build, I'm going to suggest that we are having an inner skin and an outer skin. This is part of the inner skin, so we will put the screws on the outside of the inner skin so that we're looking at it from there. this piece may well be covered up. So shorter screws, don't get them muddled up with the longer screws that they've given us. And we only need the 2. And I can't even get 2 out. Let me put this down. I'm obviously struggling just to get a screw out. If you can't get a screw out, what hope have you got of making a video on the entire build? So my screwdriver is going to need a smaller bit, and I do apologise. I should have my screwdriver bits ready, but right, there we go. So inside of the cockpit wall, dotty side out. We also, I forgot to mention, this actually has a little nobule in the middle. That nobule needs to cover over, it needs to be pointing towards this sign. Maybe it's trying to read the sign, so point it towards the sign. Then we turn over. It's going to be, the hardest bit is going to be getting the first screw in, because once we've got that first screw in, we can then let go, and then we can focus on the second screw, like so. There we go, and that's stage 9 complete. So you see we've got this, we can hardly notice it. It's only because of the light bench you can see the screws, but they are very similar colour anyway. There's the back of the screws. So let's have a look at stage 10. Take the cockpit framework 14.2 and fit it on the free side of the connector piece 14.3, so that the sides of the parts 14.2 and 14.3 are flush with each other, fixed in place with 2 km 1.6 by 3mm screws. So obviously we're going to be using that one. That was tried to escape, so that will be punished by being used. So the next piece of framework we have is this one, 14.2, and this piece of framework with a sticking out strut, that's going to be used to connect them together like so, and that's how we're gonna do it. So you notice that this piece of framework has a cutout in the middle. This actually has an extension, so that's then going to fit into there. So while you're screwing it in, you can find the exact position for it. So let's load up our screwdrivers. Once we've got the first screw in, it will be a lot easier because we won't have to hold it in place. And I haven't put it in all the way. You see it's very, very loose. That's fine. So this is exciting because we've done a lot of work on the engine, and it looks like we're taking a break from the engine. We might go back to the engine, who knows. And I have enjoyed the engine, and if we have to spend 50 issues on the engine, so be it. But it is nice just to take a short break and move on to something else. So there we go, guys, and that is unfortunately the completed issue. Not too much to do, a bit of a welcome break. I think we've done an awful lot in the last few weeks, so I am very, very happy. When you average, I've spoken before about average of the 2 issues. This issue not a lot, but if you look at the 3 previous issues, we've been working so hard on it, so I think that's absolutely fantastic. So this is the stage that we're up to at the moment. I have absolutely no idea where this is going. I guess somewhere along there, but it's looking fantastic. So I'm going to see if I can get these pieces on. Yes, very easy. I did mention in a previous issue that I had concern with the exhaust pipes. So these panels can come off, but you can't get them off because the exhaust is longer than the hole. But actually it's not really a problem, is it, once everything's screwed in place. So I'm going to keep that on there just for just to save it being knocked around. And I think really the main work has gone into this, which does look rather nice. I'm rather happy with that. So guys, I will catch you in the next issue. Take care.